Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and well, Andor is a thing. I think 10 or 11 episodes have now released of it, and I am not seeing anyone talk about this show. So in today's video, we're going to basically explore why Andor isn't connecting with the casual Star Wars fans. Because if you look at all of the media outlets that are covering it, Screen Rant, Comic Book Resources, IndieWire, The Hollywood Reporter, it's mostly being covered by critics and the hardcore fans. So I wrote down 5 talking points. So let's go through all of them and basically answer the question why Andor isn't connecting with casual Star Wars fans. Now, before we go any further, I want to make it very clear I have not seen a single episode of the Andor series. However, to answer this question of why Andor isn't connecting with casual Star Wars fans, in my opinion, it has more to do with external factors rather than with the show itself. And the first talking point I want to bring up is the fact that Rogue One just wasn't a good movie. Rogue One was not met with universal acclaim. In fact, most people will agree that Rogue One does not hold up on a rewatch, and that's simply because every major plot point in the movie contradicts the previous, right? Act 1 of the movie, they break out Jyn Erso from the Empire prison because they need her to track down Saw Gerrera. They find Saw Gerrera, Death Star tests the weapon on the planet where Saw Gerrera is hiding. Now, what happens at the end of Act 1? Saw Gerrera goes, "I'm tired of running." So Saw Gerrera dies. Entire first act, null and void. Then you go to the second act where what's his name? Galen Erso? Yeah, they're gonna go quote unquote rescue Galen Erso. So they send in Jyn Erso and Andor to go and Cassian Andor, to go save Galen Erso. However, the Y-Wings just come in and just bomb the shit out of the landing pad. So it's like, okay, if you were just gonna bomb the landing pad, why'd you even bother sending in the ground team? Then they go back to Yavin 4 to the secret rebel base, and one of the rebels booms out, "Well, why should we trust Jyn? Her father was an Imperial." So now wait, why did you break Jyn Erso out of the Empire prison in the very beginning of the movie if you were never going to trust her to begin with? So again, like I said, guys, oh yeah, and every single character in Rogue One dies in the end. So there's absolutely no connection with any of these characters. Why the hell should you care about Rogue One? Why the hell should you care about Cassian Andor? Because we all know he dies. And like I said, Rogue One, every major plot point in that movie contradicts the previous, basically making the entire movie pretty much irrelevant. So I think that's why I wanted to cover it first, is that Rogue One really wasn't that good of a movie. God damn it, wrong pipe. The second talking point that I want to mention is one that almost everyone universally agrees with, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, is that the sequel trilogy was absolutely botched. I think we can all agree with it. Okay, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Just for the sake of argument, I am going to call it for what it is. It was a reboot of Episode 4 A New Hope. Then The Last Jedi comes out and contradicts everything that The Force Awakens set up. Mostly who are race parents and the significance of going and finding Luke Skywalker, right? Luke Skywalker throws the lightsaber over his shoulder and says, I never wanted to be found. I just came here to die, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Luke, so why did you leave a map for people to go back and find you? And then, who are Rey's parents? Oh, they were nobodies. They were drunkards that sold her for beer money. Massive backlash against The Last Jedi. I argue that the backlash was also against The Force Awakens because, like I said, The Last Jedi contradicted everything that was set up in The Force Awakens, and The Force Awakens heavily relies on its sequels to actually deliver. So, in my opinion, it was actually a backlash against both movies. Then Rise of Skywalker comes out, and JJ has to quote-unquote fix The Last Jedi, and now Rey is a fucking Palpatine. And, who the hell was gonna be Rey's daddy? You know, if you listen to Daisy Ridley, she gave a lot of different answers. If I can find that interview that she did with Josh Gad, I'll intercut it here. If I can't find it, you'll just continue to hear me to talk.
I want to ask you, I just found this out. Have you been keeping Rey's secret from the beginning? Did you know about the parentage? Like, tell me about that journey of when you found out.
No. At the beginning, there was toying with like an Obi Wan connection, and then it really went. There were like different versions, and then it really went to that she was no one, and then it came to episode 9, and JJ pitched me the film and was like, "Oh yeah, Palpatine's granddaddy," and I was like, "Awesome!" And then 2 weeks later, he was like, "Oh, we're not sure," so it kept changing. So then even I was filming, and I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be.
Right, so Rise of Skywalker comes out and quote-unquote fixes The Last Jedi. So now you have The Rise of Skywalker, which was a retcon of a reboot. That was pretty much the sequel trilogy in a nutshell. Like I said, guys, I don't want to dwell on this too much because there are hundreds of hours of videos of people go really deep diving into the sequel trilogy at this point. So let's go ahead and let's just skip to let's just move on to the third topic. Like I said, I don't want to dwell on this one for too long. And the third talking point is that The Mandalorian was insanely overhyped. Now, when season 1 of The Mandalorian came out, you have to remember that the backlash against The Last Jedi was still in full swing, and episode 9 had not yet released. All of a sudden, here comes, Disney Plus, and the first major series to come out is The Mandalorian. Now, The Mandalorian, in my opinion, season 1 was really not that great. I know, some people take that as frickin' blasphemy, but by comparison to what came before, which was The Force Awakens, Rogue One, Solo, and The Last Jedi, I know not in that order, it's just how I listed them off. But anyway, The Mandalorian compared to everything that came out prior was actually a good thing that finally came out of Star Wars. It was at least competent by comparison. So everyone insanely overhyped The Mandalorian as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then season 2 of The Mandalorian came out, and well, most people agree that season 2 of The Mandalorian did not start getting good until around episode 4. So the first 3 episodes pretty much sucked. I actually liked the first episode with Timothy Olyphant, but episodes 2 and 3 absolutely sucked of season 2. Episode 4 wasn't bad because it actually continued the storyline from season 1. And then you get to the 5th episode of the second season, and that's effectively a backdoor pilot for the upcoming Ahsoka series. So yeah, again, you have The Mandalorian, which, yes, by comparison to what came before, was seen as a good show because at least it was competent. However, I feel that as time has gone on, more and more people are starting to realize that The Mandalorian really just benefited from right place, right time. That, it's not really that good of a show, at least in my opinion. I don't know, you may think it's the best show since sliced fucking bread. I don't know. Fourth talking point I want to bring up is that the Book of Boba Fett was an absolute meme factory. Remember the 3rd episode when they basically included the Power Rangers? Well, if you don't remember it, I'm gonna intercut this glorious meme from that time that I found on YouTube around the time that the episode came out.
Get up!
And you know how bad the show is when even the lead actor himself, Tamora Morrison, comes out in an interview and admits that he talks way too much in the show.
Temuera, part of what made Boba Fett so cool and mysterious in the originals
was how rarely he spoke. How did you go about keeping that edginess while adding all the dialogue in for the new series?
Yes, I wasn't very successful. I was hoping not to say as much as I have already in the first 2 episodes. I speak far too much. In fact, in the beginning, I was trying to get past my lines on to Ming Na.
Yes,
and I'd always say, excuse me, director, I really feel that Ming Na should say these lines because I want to stay mysterious.
Right.
I want to stay quiet.
But then I caught on. He wasn't just trying to be a very generous actor, which he is. He was just trying to parlay some of the work to me.
Yes. Shirking his responsibility.
So yeah, but and even when, because well, obviously John's one of the key writers. So and so sometimes I'd always say, I think this is too much. I think this is too much. Then I'd go to, what was the other guy's name? Noah. I'll try and get.
Oh, Noah, yes, Noah Noor. Mm-hmm.
I remember, of course, John actually went away to Atlanta, so I rang Noah that night and I said, Noah, the scene tomorrow, I'm talking too much. This Boba doesn't talk this much. Look, I've got all these paragraphs here. I think we should get rid of it. And John's gone to Atlanta, so don't tell him. And then next minute that morning on set, I get a call from Atlanta. John wants you to say all that dialogue and he'll cut it out later. So he was even keeping an eye on us way back, from all areas. But again, I had to start talking, I guess, otherwise we had to fill in the gaps and give out a little bit of information. And Ming's such a wonderful person to share my thoughts with too. So, but yes, I think I did speak a bit too much in answer to your question.
So yeah, overall, the Book of Boba Fett was largely seen as a joke. It was largely seen as a what the fuck is this show? This isn't Boba Fett. The Mandalorian was more Boba Fett than Boba Fett was. So you have a lot of people that were insanely let down by the Book of Boba Fett. And then the fifth and final talking point that I want to bring up is that the Obi Wan Kenobi series was poorly written fan fiction. Right now, the story of Obi Wan Kenobi, from what I heard, is that Leia gets kidnapped by the Empire, and so Bail Organa has to go to Tatooine to get Obi Wan to come out of hiding, so that he can go save like 10-year-old Leia. Right? I can't believe that was actually a legitimate Star Wars production. Like I said, it sounds like insanely bad fan fiction. And I remember the hype train for this show was real in one regard, and that was the rematch between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Well, here's how that went the first time. Yeah, pretty much. Obi-Wan was a chicken shit that ran away from Darth Vader, and then somehow fire was able to prevent Darth Vader from continuing to pursue Obi-Wan for some reason. Yes, that legitimately happened in the show for those that don't know. And one other point I want to bring up that I just thought of is that it seems like nobody really talks about the Bad Batch, right? The Bad Batch pretty much just came and went. I know that a season 2 trailer dropped during the more recent Star Wars Celebration, but just because a lot of people saw the trailer doesn't mean anything. I don't see anyone really even talking about the Bad Batch. So, how much hype is there really left for Star Wars? And I want to end the video with this. I did not create this video in a vacuum. I actually got this idea from an article from IndieWire themselves. Now, I did not read the article before planning out this video, just so you know. And this article was published on November 15th of 2022. So if you're watching this the day it premieres, the article came out yesterday. If you're watching this in the future, article came out November 15th, 2022. Headline reads, "Where is Andor's massive audience? Blame Disney for too many bad Star Wars stories." Right there, I'm like, and just from that headline, I'm like, yeah, this would make a decent video. So let's go in. I'm going to read you the meat and potatoes of this article. Like I said, guys, I did not read this article prior to planning this video. I planned this video out and then I read the article. But here we go. Andor okay, hold on. I'm skipping some setup. Here we go. Even with one of cinema's all-time great villains as its walking, wheezing symbol, the Empire's atrocities have never been emphasized to the extent felt in Andor. From the unprovoked hostilities Cassian responds to in the premiere to Episode 10's Run for Your Life prison break, sparked by the discovery that the Empire isn't just lying about releasing its inmates, but killing everyone who might realize they're serving a never-ending sentence. The way showrunner Tony Gilroy meticulously constructs the rebel forces' motivation is acutely intense. By the time Cassian exclaims, I'd rather die trying to take them down than die giving them what they want," there's no questioning how his fellow escapees will respond. You're already on board, and so are they. Such passion epitomizes the power of television. Detailed development over hours of storytelling and weeks of consumption builds to a distinct emotional response. When it happens within a popular franchise, one long established and beloved the world over, sharing that feeling only amplifies its impact. Except, Andor hasn't felt amplified, not yet. Despite its roots in a galaxy far, far away and broad subscriber base on Disney+, the latest and greatest Star Wars TV show isn't generating the same kind of buzz as the stories that came before it. Viewership, by what metrics we have been so-so. Audience demand, as measured by Parrot Analytics, doesn't compare to the likes of Obi Wan Kenobi at its peak, nor can it match The Mandalorian right now, nearly 2 years since a new episode debuted. And for those who question all ratings data in the confounding era of peak TV, take it from Tony Gilroy himself. Quote, "I think I was surprised," the Andor showrunner said in a recent interview with Variety. Quote, "I thought the show would have this gigantic, instantaneous audience that would just be everywhere, but that it would take forever for non-Star Wars people or critics or my cohort of friends to get involved in the show. The opposite happened. We ended up with all this critical praise, all this deep appreciation and understanding from a really surprising number of sources, and we're chasing the audience." There are plenty of reasons why Andor hasn't found its audience. The Rogue One prequel series features no characters from the original trilogy. TV watchers have been busy with a surfire of fall blockbusters, and perhaps most significantly, Andor is decidedly not for children. But the paradoxically tempered public response to such a stirring Star Wars story can also be explained quite simply. This is what happens when you tarnish a legacy. Andor could very well be paying the price for Disney's decade-long dismantling of the Star Wars brand. The diehard fans will always tune in, but casual moviegoers and TV watchers have been betrayed one too many times. There was the toxic fan service following The Last Jedi and all the behind-the-scenes turmoil in Solo, where they basically, made 2 movies in one there, but that's a different video for another time. Not to mention a surge of uninspired oversaturation meant to prop up Disney Plus while turning fan-favorite characters into filler content. Heck, Rogue One itself wasn't exactly met with universal acclaim. All that and a bit more led to this. What stood for decades as a beacon of blockbuster excellence now warrants a healthy dose of skepticism before jumping to hyperspace. I'm not going to read any more of this article because I think that's a good spot to end this video. Going back to answering the question, why Andor isn't connecting with casual Star Wars fans? Pretty much it comes down to, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest answer is the most correct. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here before I drag this out way longer than it needs to be. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.